Hello, everybody. This is Dina Mitchell with the Realize Foundation, and we are talking about our Save a Life Challenge today with Drew Robertson. And this month, it is August 2021, and we are talking about loss survivors. So we are talking to people we're having conversations about people who have lost someone to suicide, whether it's family or friend or loved one. And so Drew is going to talk to us today about a friend of his and what has come out of that situation for him in a big way. So, Drew, I would love to hear your story. I mean, I probably know most of it, but I would love for our audience to hear your story.
Absolutely. Am I coming in okay? You hearing me okay? Because we're out here in the middle of nowhere. So, yeah,
Yeah.
good. So my story starts actually right after 9/11 when my best friend had enlisted to the Marine Corps. His mom and dad were both Marines, and it was set. You know, he had plans his whole life to join the Marine Corps, and he did. Right after 9/11, as a lot of other people did, because of everything that had happened on that day. And he went and served, and he went in Iraq, Afghanistan. He was in Baghdad. He was in Fallujah, real nasty places. And every time he came back from a deployment or on leave, he was still he was very much changing on a mental health level, and you could tell there was a lot that he was suppressing and bottling up. But we weren't, we were just a bunch of friends. We weren't psychologists. We weren't, any of those professional, in any profession to recognize and see what was going on, at least not at the time. And, he got progressively worse. And when he, with his mental health symptoms and a lot of it being PTSD from what he had experienced at his time of war, and I, a lot of the stuff I still to this day, he literally took a lot of this to the grave with him because he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to relive these traumatic experiences, whether they were happening to him or people in his unit, people that he cared about, his brothers, his sisters. And he came back and he started all kinds of different negative coping skills, things that just didn't help his symptoms. They exacerbated them. They made them progressively worse and worse, from over consuming alcohol and just always just looking for dangerous outlets to feel alive. And we recognize that all these things is, even back then, even before, I got into the fields that I am now, we were able to recognize that, a lot of that was, what other people would just call explosive behavior, self-harming behavior. And again, it's they can get the adrenaline rush and everything else just, again, to feel anything. And super dangerous coping skill to have. Not only that, coupled with alcohol, the decision-making skills aren't exactly the best. And as he eventually got to the point where even myself, one of his best friends, I had to separate myself from the situation because it was becoming progressively more dangerous for myself and other people that were around him to, and again, not having a name for what was going on, not having any knowledge of what it was he was experiencing myself. It was just toxic is kind of how I saw it. So 6 months after separating myself from that kind of the behavior that he was exhibiting, he had moved back to Florida, where we all grew up, where it all started, where he enlisted in the Marine Corps. And he was started with a very quick, hot, heavy relationship with a new girlfriend, and things sounded really, really amazing for him. And the one day that had all just ended because of some alcohol-induced fight, and she was getting violent with him. He for the first time showed violence to a female, which just tore him up inside. But he was really, from what I understand, defending himself, because she was the aggressor, and he ended up defending himself, and then ate himself tore himself up for that kind of behavior. And he got to the point where he was now his own worst enemy. And he was just never going to focus on healing, and the fact that he wouldn't talk about his symptoms. He didn't want to put that kind of trauma, and that's the kind of guy that he was. He really did not want to bother everybody, to burden all his friends, all his family with something so extreme that he was literally trying to protect us from it. And and you see that in so many veterans. They're whether they keep it from their families, their wives, their children, and there just had to be something done about it. So that's after losing Randy. The my whole next goal in life was to stop that from to find some relief for our veterans, so that not only they, but their loved ones and everybody can start working on healing together, and becoming, again, one, going through all the process of healing together, because it's not just a veteran problem, it's a society problem as well. We don't know how, like, I didn't know how to help Randy at the time. It wasn't until I lost him that I started doing research, and I'm one out of millions of people that have lost people to veteran suicide, and it's just there's so few people that then go afterwards and do the research. I was looking for I had to find a reason why I lost Randy. It was, for me, it was, I was putting all the blame on myself, and on, a lot of our other friends were putting the blame on themselves for not having done more. And, for me, it was putting, while I was going through that depression and that blame, for not having done more, for separating myself from him, for all the enabling that I did with the alcohol, because I went and partied with him too, because I thought that's what he wanted. I thought that's what would bring him some relief. So yeah, I'm along for the ride, man. Let's go do it. But it never led to anything good. It always led to more self-harm and just other symptoms that would then come from the alcoholism. And it's just, we have to find some relief for our vets, but it starts with also retraining society, so that they can understand, like I learned to understand what these vets are experiencing, and why they have the episodes that they have, and how to bring those episodes relief, from being mental health first aid certified to just listening to our veterans and what they have to say, and not just one but many, and you'll know that they come from all these different walks of life, and each has their own path towards that healing process for their mental health. And it starts with positive coping skills, and and then to housing, and and everything else, and relieving all these different anxieties that our heroes go through. And by doing that, again, it becomes, matters with our programs of so many different types of therapy, while eliminating all the most stressful things that we deal with on a day-to-day life, from rent to food to everything else. We do it all here, and we do it for free. We do it for the veterans at no cost. There's no time limit. There's no, you need to heal within the next 3 months, and by then we expect you to have a job and be a regular member of society again, because that's just for some reason what people think that they can do, and it's ridiculous. But for us, we want to again just keep growing and keep striving to help more and more veterans. Right now, I actually talked to you a few days ago saying that I'm here in Colorado and everything else, and then more urgent rescues, more housing starting to come. So I actually drove to Wisconsin in the last 2 days, and got our internet set up here, and got all these different things going, because it's progressing so fast that I've got to get these houses ready, and this facility ready for more, because there are a lot of people hurting. And as with the stuff going on in Afghanistan right now, and a lot of our veterans now are having mental health breaks, asking what the hell was this for? Like right now, I mean, there's a lot of people hurting, and they don't know why. They don't know whether there's no why behind it anymore. And I'm seeing this in our veteran communities, and I'm talking all the different political spectrums. I'm not talking, one side or the other. I'm not, blaming the last president or the new president. I'm talking about, there are veterans, Americans, heroes that went and fought, and they're suffering right now. And and now they're wondering what the hell it's all for, and there's no support and relief for them, besides organizations like us that are grassroots, that aren't getting government funding and amazing huge big checks. Like the VA, I think, had 9.5 million in unspent funds for PTSD programs last year alone. I could have built 9 communities with that kind of funding. and sustainable ones where it's ongoing and recurring, and we keep growing, and the next person helps the next person, like we've built in a sustainable fashion, where that money would carry so much further than anything else. Yet, they'll just leave it unspent because, they haven't spent the time to go vet out the programs that work, so very, very frustrating in a time like this for our veterans, and we're going to need more of it, like now, sooner than later. So, that's why, every time we try and connect, and I love you for it, because you see that we're putting in the work, and you go out of your way to try and connect with us and we're just always on the road, because we're not getting any relief right now, because there's more housing needed and more relief for our veterans needed than we're able to provide. So our workers, our volunteers, which we're 100% volunteer, are exhausted. And now, with this news, I'm concerned for our veterans' mental health across the United States. And again, it doesn't matter whose or what politics are behind it. These are our veterans. These are our heroes. What they saw isn't political. What they fought for wasn't political. It was personal. They were experiencing it. This is their lives that we're messing with, and the families of those heroes as well. They're often losing as well. Not only that, even if they come home, are they mentally coming home in a sound frame of mind? Are they ready to get back into society and just dive right into the job market? And especially in these conditions, the housing market, what it is, and its conditions. I mean, you can't get 3 veterans together on disability and afford a house in Colorado. Not on what they're paid. So there's there's a lot going on, a big need for more support, and we're hoping that if not us, that some other organizations are stepping up to the plate, because there's a lot of help needed out there right now. I implore anybody to come look our veterans in the eyes and have a conversation about mental health, and from just regular PTSD to military sexual trauma that a lot of our men and women go through in the military, that's often swept under the rug as well. Like there's so much that needs to be addressed right now, and politics are getting in the way of the healing. And I think, if we can rally behind any cause, you would think it would be our protectors and heroes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you for sharing your story about Randy, and I'm sorry about his situation. I can actually relate to a lot of the things you talked about that he went through in my own story. But you're right. It is, the world is messed up right now, and I don't know. There's so much that needs to be fixed. It's like, I don't have all the answers, but I do think that community is one of the things that heals, whether it's addiction or it's mental health or it's grief and loss, all of those things. Community does seem to help heal whoever can support each other. And I think what you're building is communities of these people who need the support, and they're able to support each other, which gives them purpose, but also helps them heal and talk about things. So
I think we do have the answers. Well, just not to cut you off, but I think you do have the answers, and I think you literally said that you don't think you have all the answers, but you just said all the answers. You talked about, you hit the nail on the head. Community, it's working together. It's addressing the issues and having the conversation, where it's not about being right or wrong. It's about adding to the conversation, no matter what which direction it's going, because there is not necessarily a right or wrong when it comes to individuals, right? Some people it might be community, some people it might be a little more seclusion, but it's looking at the individual and saying, hey, what's the situation? And that's what we do. That is literally why we do what we do. When we vet people to come into the program, we're looking at, what drives them. What is it that you're passionate about? You know what? Oh, perfect. We have this, and you would be great for this. And that ends up being one of their primary roles, is whatever they love doing, because they'll thrive in it, right? So, and again, you do seem to have a lot of the answers. I think that society needs to, again, just recognize that sometimes it is the obvious, right? And then also to then take the action like you do with your foundation, getting out there and highlighting, the people doing work. And I think that if people stop making it a money thing or a them thing and make it a community thing, that truly is the answer.
Yeah, I think it's true. And the more that we talk about what we've been through, whatever that may be, the more we can heal from it. Because if we keep it bottled up inside, it just causes more and more stress in our body, and more
Physical too.
stress turn into physical problems.
Yep. Well, that's that is literally the beauty part. I mean, as you know, you come out to our Colorado property, and everybody, once they've established themselves there, they're so vocal about their mental health. People literally now are at the point where they come and they're like, "Hey, I know I'm supposed to do this today, but I'm having one of those days. It's a mental health. Like, can I do a mental health day?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll do a mental health day." What are you going to do? Are you going to go for a walk? You're going to go fishing? Sounds amazing. Take this person with you. They look like they're having a mental health day too. As long as we have it covered with volunteers and stuff like that, because as you know, we have a wolf sanctuary, a wolf dog rescue that we do, constant, therapy with animal therapy and stuff as well. So, but with the self-care days, they happen, and we actually have 2 mandatory days a week for all our veterans. You have to take 2 days off because we're just not going to have you breaking down anymore. Like, we used to work, but for that, work is therapy for some people, but like myself, but others, they'll just work themselves to the bone, right? And you have to, kind of stop and say, "Hey, look, I love the enthusiasm, but you need a day off, and go get your all those things that you said you had to get in order. Work on those today." We have action plans, for every single person, and the action plans are things that they have their monthly goals, they have their overall plan, and their weekly goals are attacking their monthly goals, which are all attacking their, it's all those different steps broken down to their permanent housing plan, which is owning a home or owning a tiny home, and we'll build it together if we need to, or gathering the materials, and just we're always working on gathering and raising for their permanent housing plan. And when they have those materials, we then get to go and build that veteran's home as a community with no labor costs, because we're all just happy to do it. Meanwhile, everybody's learning every trade skill in the book, from building homes to growing their own food and everything else. So all those positive coping skills I was talking about, there they are. Not only that, they're literally training them to get into almost any kind of job market, from either that, or if they're, if they end up fully sustainable, well, then they have a whole bunch of really good hobbies. So, to be able to craft whatever they want by the time they're done.
It's amazing. I'm so I know proud's not really the right word, but I'm so excited about everything you've built and how it's helping people. And I know that you're growing astronomically, so it's just going to keep on going.
It would be foolish of me not to point out the countless amount of people that helped me. It is not a me thing. I did not build this. It's a we thing across the board. God, my fiance Danielle, well over a year of just grind work. She, all while teaching. She was a full-time teacher. Our entire team. Andy, he's coming in and working on helping develop the mental health. Ben Scott, another veteran that doesn't live on site, but I mean, these guys are all, just working their butts off. Our 2 Wedgwood Award winners, Randy Silber, which is also our COO. I mean, he's one of our first veterans in, and that guy, he's a close second behind me as far as, work put into the community, because he values it like it's his home. It is his home. He still lives there, and he's just, doing an amazing thing, getting his life back on track, back in order in ways that he didn't even think he would be able to start addressing yet, and watching him, he's on his last issue. I'm pretty sure he's handling it right now back home in Kentucky, and is literally like, what are you going to do when you don't have any, problems anymore. It's like, man, you can finally really just focus on that whole living thing. And again, once we lift all those stresses, once they get everything from their past behind them, they can really, really focus on a strong future. And again, it's one of the most beautiful things to watch these guys develop, and the guys and gals, the men and women that are in our programs develop, because they're all capable of so much once you get behind the trauma, and get behind those there's also a lot of insecurities, because the military doesn't exactly train them to be confident. They train them to be tough, and they also train them to take orders, and that doesn't always get filled with self-confidence. So watching them once they start to develop and start to learn these new things, and that self-confidence starts building, you start to see them coming up with ideas, because now they know what they're capable of. And it's just like, oh, this is this simple, and then they start taking on each new task like it's nothing. You'll see them pick up new tools they've never touched before, and then just start using them, because they've learned to just start figuring things out, more problem solving rather than taking orders. Is freaking beautiful, because they're, again, it's like they start to realize how intelligent and how capable they are. And it's just like, and then you just see them pass that on to the next person. It's like, what? It's so cool. So cool.
That's incredible. It's ironic because I'm about to do a presentation on confidence.
Well, I mean, Randy, our COO, it's like, and he'll probably kick my butt later for bringing this up, but he had never chopped wood before. And to me, that's, growing up, part country, part city, part beach kid, I've kind of done everything, from four-wheeling and chopping my own firewood to whatever else, kind of a Boy Scout. But the, just never clicked that some people just didn't again grow up the same way or have that same lifestyle. I mean, something you just don't think about too often. And so even picking up the axe, the first time he picked up an axe and he saw me chopping wood, he took a swing, he hit the blunt end. It happens even for experienced people every now and then. You end up hitting a little more blunt end, and or it ends up slipping in your hand, hits the side, stings like crap, right? And so he did that, and I knew how it felt. So I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled. I was just like, oh, ouch. And immediately I caught myself, because I saw his face. It was like the self-confidence dropped because a few people watched. I was like, okay, wait a second. And then he wanted to put it down. He's like, no, you got this. And I was like, no, pick it back up, pick it back up, put it in your hand. Here's how you let it slide off your hand, blah, blah, blah. I showed him a little technique that I do, and he picked it back up and he sliced right through that damn log like it was butter. So then he starts picking it up, and he, next thing you know, he's through half a damn cord of wood, and no time at all. But you see, like, not, you just see that look on his face. It went from the disappointment to like, oh, I'm never doing this again, to holy crap. Now, like, anytime there's wood or anything, he's the first one to pick up the axe, and he'll also, again, teach anybody else that's never swung the axe how to do it, so that they do it safely and get it done. And it's something that could be as simple as chopping wood. That again, without having lived it or experienced it, again, there's no self-confidence, and watching that self-confidence pour into people is amazing. From that, the little tasks to animal care, to getting in the alpha enclosure with the alpha wolves, it's all cool. Yeah.
It's just about building skills. Like you said, you have a skill set that you're good at. All of us have things we're good at and things we've never tried. So Randy's not alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm learning stuff all the time out there from these guys too. I mean, that would be, it'd be silly of me again not to point out how much I've grown by this organization developing, because every single person that comes in teaches me something new. Right now, again, there's a bunch of things that I can't really empathize because I haven't lived them. And for instance, MST, I'm learning from one of our new veteran residents, Dusty. She's been trying to help in the best way that she can, articulate, some of the symptoms of MST and some of the different challenges in comparison to combat related PTSD or physical trauma related PTSD. Military sexual trauma carries a whole different, list of symptoms, I guess you could say, that have to be handled differently. And I, again, I've not suffered that. So I'm counting on people like her who want to develop that program, who want to help other, men and women suffering from MST, to again, relief, to find some comfort, and that they're not alone, and really, start attacking that issue in a way that that can only be done by being vocal about the issue in the first place, because that is an issue that's largely swept under the rug, and with not just the military but society as well, because even if the military is silent about something, these assault survivors and stuff like that, if they were safe to be vocal, they would be, wouldn't you think? So a lot of them don't even feel safe to be vocal about it because of the fear of punishment, and um, for saying
Yeah.
what needs to be said, when it doesn't seem like the military is siding with the victim. Often, there's even been cases where the attacker is promoted so that they could be relocated, away from their victim, as opposed to, and then the victim might even be demoted and sent off, or the victim, even worse, the victim gets demoted and sent somewhere else for being vocal about their assault. So it's not only, the trauma doesn't just come from their attacker, it comes from any superiors that essentially let that kind of thing be swept under the rug, or participate in sweeping it under the rug, and not having any backbone to, to address the issue as it should be,
Yeah. And
yeah.
that's something, I'll be honest, I've never even heard. I mean, I've heard of that issue, but I've never heard it named MST. So I'm sure there's a lot of people in the world who don't even know that happens or exists, and what it means. And,
Immediately as well, and this happens to so many women in the military. But what a lot of people don't, often don't acknowledge as well, is that how many men suffer from MST, and they're typically the last to say anything about it as well, because they think it makes them, there's these stigmas of making them less of a man, and taking their manhood, yada yada, this, that, and the other. It's all of course BS. It's all stigmas. It's exactly what it is. But they've got that in the back of their mind, that if they, and again, they'll be punished just as much as the next person if they bring something up that because the military doesn't want to have to take accountability for something so extreme happening, and so it's yeah, it just happens to so many. So yeah, MST is one of the most not talked about issues, that also leads to extreme PTSD, constant suicide. I mean, I think the MST survivors are a huge percentage or have a huge suicide rate in comparison to PTSD, which already has a huge suicide rate. And it's I think if we actually ever got the real numbers, it would be staggering. Just like there's, everybody knows about the 20. Well, people are starting to learn about the
I don't
22
think
a
we
day.
get the real numbers. Yeah. I don't think we get
Yeah,
the real
right.
numbers around suicide in any,
Well, drug
um,
factor and drug overdose suicides in the veteran community, and it's not 22, it's 36. 36 a day. And drug overdose suicide should be included, because it's just a different way out. But intentional, a lot of them being intentional overdoses and other stuff, and it's awful. But again, let's they love separating these numbers from each other so that the number doesn't show and reflect what it truly is, and that's disgusting. But again, I guess it's who you ask for who you get the numbers from.
yeah,
So.
exactly. I think I read an article a few months ago that just in 2020 in Denver, overdose deaths almost doubled in 1 year.
Well,
And
you got a
it's
pandemic, and everybody's stuck at home, and everybody isolated, and already suffering from trauma and depression and everything else, and then you take away any other human contact they have, and now it's just them and their demons. What did they think was going to happen?
yeah,
And that's
it's
not just
true.
the veteran community. That's anybody that had to have an outlet for their depression and their trauma. That's what those groups are for. If they think we're getting human connection from video chat, they're crazy.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And you never, I mean, it is hard to know if you have a number of overdoses for a year in a certain city, how many of them were intentional and not. but it just seems it seems naive not to include the overdose numbers along with the suicide numbers, because a lot of times they are one and the same.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just like the car accident deaths. I mean, the car accident suicides is, hard to pinpoint who intentionally drove off the road and who drove off the road on purpose, and, and in a crisis moment, and again, so they'll label it they'll label it a accidental death as opposed to what it is, and which is suicide a lot of the time. So again, even those, I mean, again, if we and in those cases there's no true way to get the numbers, because then it's debatable, right? Whether or not, unless we have a video log, or some kind of note that says that they intended to do that, we would never really know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, Drew, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, and
Yeah,
I
you.
love everything that you're doing and building, and I'm so excited about your new communities and the people they're going to help. And I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate yours as well. Yeah, it's good to finally get caught up again, because there's been so much going on and so much more to come. We've got big things happening, and our support's just growing, because if we were able to do what we did during a pandemic, I can only to get things started. I can only imagine where things are going to go as the world starts to see lives saved, and more healing. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. And for our audience, if you guys want to find Drew, it's mattersvillevets.org. And I know what's your handle on TikTok? Because I know you're very active on there.
Yeah, Pack 22 Alpha on TikTok. It is, we do a few videos a day, a lot of mental health stuff, a lot of our veteran participants that allow us to share their journeys as well. We share that because we want everybody to know that they've got support, and that they've got other people that are going through things as well. And it's okay to look for help, ask for help. It's okay to seek, again, human connection to try and overcome what you're going through, because finding people that have experienced similar things can help lead that way, especially if they're on that healing path already. They can show you where to start at the very least, right? Oh no, did I lose you? Oh no, I think I lost you.